So if you've ever felt that post-vacation slump, where you realize you've spent a ton of money, traveled miles and miles, only to get back home feeling, well, exactly the same, dealing with the same old anxieties, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, Seneca absolutely nailed that feeling, didn't he? Almost 2,000 years ago. He famously warned that just changing your location is kind of pointless if your mind is still, chaotic.
Because you always take your mind with you.
That's the core insight, yeah. Travel gets marketed as this great escape, right?
Yeah.
But for the Stoics, it's actually something quite different. It's a test, a real test of character happening in real time.
And that's exactly what we want to get into today. We're not looking for just another vacation guide. What we need is like a philosophical handbook for the traveler,
Mhm.
pulled from these sources, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. How do we navigate all the stuff that happens when you travel? The delays, the cues, the misunderstandings, maybe even big setbacks,
Right.
and not just get through it, but actually use it to, grow.
Well, that's the goal. We'll explore how ancient Stoic philosophy offers this surprisingly practical toolkit for managing all that external chaos. Our chat today will really focus on three core practices. First, internalizing what you actually control, your locus of control. Second, seeing inevitable misfortunes, not as disasters, but as training.
Okay.
And third, constantly watching those instant judgments your mind makes about everything. That's really the path to self-discovery and, frankly, inner peace, no matter what the road throws at you.
Okay, let's unpack that first big one then. The core mechanism for Stoic resilience. You mentioned Epictetus's Enchiridion, his handbook. It starts right off the bat with this really clear idea about control.
It really does. It's the absolute foundation, bam, first sentence, of things some are in our power and others are not. Simple statement, huge implications. And Epictetus wanted this distinction totally internalized, ready, like he said, like a dagger you can pull out the second things get chaotic.
A dagger, wow, that's quite an image.
It is. Because if you don't internalize this, if you keep confusing what's yours and what isn't, you're basically guaranteed a life full of frustration and disappointment. It's that fundamental.
I think a common misunderstanding, especially for newcomers to Stoicism, is thinking this means just like not caring about anything, universal indifference.
Right. That's a frequent misstep.
But it's not that, is it? It's more like a really intense focus on the few things that actually matter, the things you can influence.
Precisely. It's discrimination, not indifference.
Yeah.
So if you're packing our internal travel bag, what goes in it? What's genuinely, absolutely in our power?
Yeah, what's the list?
Essentially, it's our inner world, what the Stoics called our prohairesis, our faculty of choice, our ruling faculty. This covers our judgments about things, our core desires, our moral goals. Now, it's complex, right? These things get influenced all the time. Internally, maybe you're hungry, tired, acting out of habit.
Yeah.
Externally, someone's rude, there's a loud noise, whatever. But the key is, we fundamentally keep the power to decide whether we agree, whether we assent to those influences, or whether we choose to override them.
We always have the final say on our reaction.
Always. The choice remains sovereign.
Can you give a travel example? Like, how do we keep that control over judgment when everything around us seems to be falling apart? Say, at the airport.
Okay, perfect scenario. You're at the airport, flight's delayed,
Yeah.
then the announcement, 4 more hours.
Ugh. Yeah, the worst.
Your first reaction might be physical,
Mm.
a tightening in your chest, frustration. That's maybe that first movement we can talk about later. But the power you have is in the judgment you apply next. Do you decide, this is awful, this delay is ruining my entire trip?
Hmm.
Or do you judge, okay, this is external, totally outside my control. It has zero bearing on my ability to be patient and act virtuously right now.
So the delay is external, but letting it destroy your peace is internal.
Exactly. The event is neutral. The meaning, the harm that's added by your judgment.
So the focus shifts. It's not about the outcome getting there on time, but about the intention and the effort you put in during the delay.
That's it precisely. The Stoic focus is always on the process. Living with a solide, with virtue, your goal can be to act patiently. And guess what? You can succeed at that goal perfectly right now, sitting in that uncomfortable airport chair.
Regardless of the flight status.
Totally, regardless.
Wow.
That intention, that process, it's completed in the present. Nothing external can stop you from intending to be patient. But if your goal is, my flight must leave on time, well, that goal is inherently fragile. It depends on things you don't control.
This focus on intention really builds self-sufficiency, doesn't it?
It's the bedrock of it.
Okay, now the flip side. The huge, maybe scary category of things not in our power, the externals. Travel seems designed to highlight these.
Oh, absolutely. Epictetus is brutally honest here. He lists The body, property, reputation, office. Basically, everything which is not our own doing.
And travel puts all of those under immense pressure.
Think about it. Your body. You try to be healthy, right? Right. But you eat something local, get a terrible stomach bug,
Been there.
or debilitating jet lag hits you. That's external. Not your fault, but it happens to your body. Then property luggage. You can track it, insure it.
Get the fancy tags.
Right. But if the airline loses it, or someone steals your wallet, gone. External forces. If your happiness is tied to that bag arriving, you're asking for trouble.
And reputation, that's an interesting one, especially for business travel.
Definitely. Say you're flying for a crucial conference presentation. Some unforeseen event, airspace closure, whatever causes a massive delay. You miss your slot.
Disaster.
Well, externally, maybe. Your reputation might take a hit. Your boss might be unhappy. Did you do anything wrong? Nope. Was the outcome negative in their eyes? Yes. But since their judgment, their opinion is external, your true well-being, your eudaimonia, can't depend on it.
So it sounds like we need to rationally choose the best options for reliable airline. Good bag, but stay emotionally detached from the outcome.
That's the critical distinction, often missed. The Stoic isn't passive. We use reason. We pick the best flight, pack carefully, plan routes. We make sensible choices.
Okay.
But the emotional investment stops there. Real freedom, Epictetus argues, comes from emotionally despising, might be too strong a word, but certainly not caring deeply about things outside our power. When you genuinely stop agonizing over the lost luggage, you regain the inner peace that the luggage itself could never guarantee.
Which brings us back to that Stoic goal, eudaimonia, that smoothly flowing life.
Exactly. And it's not about constant pleasure, it's about flourishing through reason. The smoothness comes from mastering your internal choices, doing the best with what is in your power,
Yeah.
and just accepting the rest, the delays, the lost items, the confusion as it happens. Without that emotional whiplash, it's basically an internal optimization strategy.
All right, so step one is understanding control. Step two, logically, is dealing with the fact that bad things will happen, especially when we travel, when we deliberately increase the variables. And the Stoics don't just say grin and bear it, they actually tell us to welcome misfortune. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does it first, yeah. But they saw philosophy itself as a kind of therapy. A tough therapy, maybe. Epictetus called his school a hospital for souls.
Hospital, interesting.
Yeah, the philosopher is the doctor, and the goal is an abstract debate. It's giving you practical tools. Tools to handle everyday friction, sure, but also the big stuff, major losses, disappointments, grief. They're preparing you for reality.
And the main tool for turning bad stuff into, well, good fuel seems to be this premeditatio malorum, basically, thinking about bad things before they happen, negative visualization.
That's it. Seneca really championed this. He insists we should actively welcome perceived misfortunes because they offer a benefit. They're a training exercise. Premeditatio malorum is like a daily mental workout. You deliberately spend time thinking about things going wrong. It could be minor stuff, someone cutting you off in traffic.
Happens all the time when traveling.
Right. Or it could be major losing your job, the death of someone close.
Okay, that sounds incredibly dark. How does thinking about horrible things actually help? Isn't it just depressing?
The point isn't to wallow or fixate morbidly. It's preparation. Mental rehearsal. You repeat to yourself, okay, if this happens, if I lose my wallet, if I get sick, if this project fails, I have the inner resources, my virtue, my character to handle it.
So it's about building confidence in your ability to cope.
Exactly. By mentally walking through the loss of property, reputation, even health, you kind of decouple the event itself from the shock and panic. When something bad does happen, you're not scrambling. You're activating a plan you've already run mentally. It strips the terror from the unknown.
This connects to Seneca's wrestler analogy, which I think really reframes the whole idea of struggle.
It's a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
Think about it. A wrestler who only spars with weaker opponents. They get rusty. Their skills decline.
Right, they need the challenge.
They need the challenge. If they're never pushed, their virtues, courage, discipline, resilience, they just atrophy. Adversity in life is the only sparring partner that lets you develop and show your virtue. That 6-hour flight delay, that's not just an inconvenience. It's your chance to practice patience, maybe even find some humor in it. You can't practice temperance if you're never tempted by rage, right?
Wow, yeah. The moment you switch from why me to, okay, what virtue can I practice right now, the whole experience changes.
The whole frame shifts.
And this links back to that idea of fate, or just inevitability.
Yes. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminds himself and us that whatever happens, our response is always our choice. His famous line, "What stands in the way becomes the way."
The obstacle is the path.
The obstacle defines the path forward. If your planned route is blocked, the detour is now your route. There's no point fighting it.
And Marcus also stresses how pointless regret or resistance is. If something was inevitable, part of the natural chain of events, why waste energy railing against it?
Exactly. Complaining about what was going to happen anyway just causes needless suffering. It shows you haven't really grasped how the world works. Seneca pointed out how illogical it is to think, oh, I didn't think that misfortune could happen to me, whether it's losing money or getting sick, especially when you see it happening to people all around you, all the time.
Like death, for instance.
Like death. It's irrational to expect your luck to hold out forever against the inevitable. Accepting inevitability is accepting the rules of the game we're all playing.
We have some really striking case studies of this philosophy being tested under truly extreme circumstances. James Stockdale's experience as a POW comes to mind.
Stockdale is incredible. A high-ranking Navy pilot, shot down, prisoner in North Vietnam for years, brutal conditions in the Hanoi Hilton.
And he explicitly used Epictetus to survive.
He did. He called the POW camp his laboratory of human behavior.
Yeah.
He realized that when everything external is stripped away, your freedom, your comfort, your dignity, even control over your body, the only thing absolutely left is your prohairesis, your will, your attitude, your choices.
There's that mention of his internal chant during torture sessions.
Yes, he said he'd repeat it silently as they marched him to interrogation. Control fear, control guilt, control fear, control guilt.
Wow.
It was the embodiment of Epictetus's demand for total personal responsibility for each and every one of your emotions. Fear and guilt arise from judgments. Stockdale knew the guards could break his body, but they couldn't force him to feel fear or guilt. They couldn't force him to betray his men. They couldn't force him to despair.
That choice remained his.
Always. As Epictetus said, "For it is within you that both your destruction and deliverance lie." Stockdale's only job, as he saw it, was to maintain his character's integrity. Everything else was external.
That's incredibly powerful. It shows that the dichotomy holds even facing death. Now, let's shift to, still both Seneca mentions him, a different kind of loss, Mabo. The loss of a whole world.
Stilbo's story is another cornerstone Stoic example. His city, Megara, was conquered, sacked, total destruction. Stilbo lost everything, family, home, possessions, gone. Objectively, yes. But when he emerged from the ruins alone, people noted he seemed content. The conqueror, Demetrius, asked him if he'd lost anything.
And his reply was amazing.
It was. He basically said he didn't consider anything that could be taken away as truly valuable.
So what did he say exactly?
He replied, "I have all my valuables with me," meaning his character, his justice, his wisdom, his virtue. Those were internal, untouchable. The city burning. That was external stuff.
He didn't lose himself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Seneca uses this to show how much harder it is to conquer a person who possesses true inner contentment than it is to conquer a whole city. Stilbo carried his real wealth through the fire, a timeless lesson for anyone terrified of losing their stuff or their status.
Okay, so we've got internalize control, use adversity as training. The third piece seems to be the constant moment-by-moment work, monitoring the mind. Because when we travel, we're bombarded with new things, stressful things, irritating things. How do we actually keep our cool in real time?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Stoic happiness requires constant vigilance over our own minds. We have to take full responsibility for the good or bad we experience. Everything that affects us, that rude taxi driver, the shock of seeing something unexpected, a sudden change of plans, it all depends on the judgments we make about it and how we choose to respond.
This loops back to that cognitive basis of emotion you mentioned earlier, Epictetus's famous line.
The absolute classic. It's not things that have set us, but our judgments about things. A delayed train is just a delayed train, an external fact.
Neutral.
Neutral. The rage comes from the internal judgment. This delay is unacceptable. This is an insult. This ruins everything. The event itself has no inherent power to upset you. It's the story you tell yourself about it.
Can we break down that mechanism? I see the delay sign, that's the external thing. What happens in my head to turn that into anger?
The Stoics had a pretty sophisticated model. First, the impression hits your senses. You see the sign, hear the bad news. Second, your mind makes a quick, often automatic assent or agreement, usually based on habit. Uh-oh, this is bad.
Okay.
Third, you form the judgment. I am being harmed here. This is wrong. This is going to mess up my plans. Finally, the destructive passioner, emotion, anger, fear, frustration blossoms. The crucial intervention point is between the impression and the assent. Epictetus teaches us to pause right there. Challenge that automatic, this is bad. Withhold dissent. Question the judgment before it takes root.
So anger isn't just this raw, uncontrollable force, even if my heart starts pounding.
Definitely not. That pounding heart might be a first movement, but the anger itself, that's a product of your judgment. And because it's a product of judgment, you can change it by changing the judgment. Epictetus makes it clear. To be truly harmed, it's not enough to be hit or insulted. You have to believe, you have to internally agree that you are being harmed.
My mind has to be complicit.
Exactly. If someone provokes you, say, a fellow traveler is being incredibly annoying and you get angry, your mind agreed to be provoked. You assented to the judgment. Their behavior justifies my distress. You handed over your inner peace.
But what about those purely physical reactions? Like jumping at a loud bang or feeling shaky after a near miss in traffic. Surely those are involuntary. Do Stoics just try to suppress that?
That's a really important clarification, and Seneca was careful about this. He distinguished between those full-blown destructive emotions like rage or terror and what he called first movements.
First movements, like reflexes.
Sort of. Natural physiological reactions. A jolt of shock. An involuntary shiver if it gets suddenly cold, maybe blushing, or your heart racing momentarily. These are bodily responses, not full Stoic emotions. They're morally neutral.
So my body might react, but my mind hasn't signed off on it yet.
Exactly. For that physical first movement to become a proper destructive emotion like fear or anger, the mind has to step in. It has to judge the event as truly terrible and then assent to acting on that judgment. Proper fear involves the judgment, this is dangerous, plus the decision to flee. Proper anger involves the judgment, I've been wronged, plus the decision to retaliate. You can feel the initial jolt, but consciously refuse the judgment that requires despair or aggression.
Okay, let's apply this. Common travel scenario. Dealing with criticism. Maybe from a local who misunderstands you, or just someone being negative.
Epictetus gives us a wonderfully simple, elegant flowchart for this. Someone criticizes you. Pause. Ask yourself, is what they're saying true or false?
Okay.
If it's true, well, great. They've pointed out a genuine fault you can now work on. They've actually done you a favor like a free coach. You should feel gratitude, not anger.
Makes sense. But what if it's totally false? They're just wrong about me.
If it's false, then they are simply mistaken. They're operating under a flawed understanding. The error harms them, their rationality, their judgment, not you. So either way, true or false, the remark itself causes you no real harm. The only way it hurts you is if you let it, if you allow it to provoke you into anger or defensiveness. That reaction is the only real harm because it compromises your own rational character.
And the best defense against someone just being persistently awful, is it just rolling over?
Not rolling over, no. Marcus Aurelius suggests meekness, but not in a passive sense. It's unconquerable rationality.
Yeah.
It denies the provoker the reaction they're looking for. If someone is doing you wrong, try to gently teach or correct them, not attack them. Remind yourself, and maybe even them, as Marcus suggests, we weren't born to hurt each other. By staying calm and rational, you demonstrate that their actions are harming their own soul, not yours. That's the power of reason against irrationality. #tag4. Gaining cosmic perspective and urgency.
All right, so the Stoic traveler is working on internal control, reframing adversity, managing judgments. The final piece seems to be about perspective, pulling the camera back, way back.
Yes, the cosmic perspective.
Yeah.
It's absolutely vital, and Marcus Aurelius is the great champion of this in his Meditations. He literally tells us to imagine looking down on Earth from a vast height, like an astronaut's view.
That image is powerful.
From up there, he says, think how tiny everything looks. Countries, cities, even the great empires of his day, just little patches.
And all those things that stress us out when traveling, the missed connection, the bad hotel room, the argument over the bill, they must just vanish from that perspective.
They shrink to almost nothing, right?
Yeah.
And the people down there, Marcus says, look minuscule, full of cares and concerns, he calls them. But their worries are so temporary, so insignificant in the grand sweep of time and space. When you really contemplate the scale of the cosmos, the billions of years, the vastness, you realize the slice of time given to each of us is microscopic. Our lives are just a flash.
It sounds potentially diminishing, but the goal isn't to make life feel pointless.
Not at all. It's not about diminishing the value of your life, but diminishing the size of your anxieties. It puts everyday troubles in their proper tiny context.
This cosmic view seems tied to the underlying Stoic idea about the universe itself having an order, a rationality.
Physis.
That's the standard Stoic physics, yes. The belief that nature, the cosmos, isn't random chaos, but is guided by a rational principle, a providential force, they called it Zeus, or logos, or just nature itself. The universe is seen as ordered, beautiful, like a single living organism. And we as humans are rational parts of that whole. So living according to nature means aligning ourselves with this rational order, accepting what happens as part of a necessary, ultimately good process.
But what if you don't quite buy that? What if the universe feels more random, more chaotic? Marcus Aurelius, being an emperor dealing with constant crises, seems to have grappled with this himself. He absolutely did. You see this tension throughout the Meditations. He constantly weighs the possibilities. Is the world governed by providence, a rational plan? Or is it just atoms colliding randomly, meaningless chance, the view of thinkers like Lucretius? He felt the pull of both ideas.
So faced with that uncertainty, how did he keep practicing Stoicism? What was his practical takeaway?
It's remarkably pragmatic. He essentially concluded, for the purpose of living a virtuous life, it almost doesn't matter which cosmic view is true. Your response should be the same.
Really? Providence or chaos act the same way.
Yes, whether the universe is ruled by reason or just random chance, your job remains constant. Accept what happens and act in response as best we can. He even says, look, even if you believe the universe isn't rational, you shouldn't act irrationally. Your commitment to virtue, to being just, temperate, courageous, wise, that's your anchor, regardless of whether there's a grand cosmic design or not.
That connects perfectly to Seneca and his intense focus on time. If our individual time is so fleeting against that cosmic backdrop, we need to feel some urgency.
Exactly. Seneca was obsessed with the value of time, especially on the shortness of life. His big counterintuitive point is, we actually have plenty of time. The problem isn't the quantity, it's how much we waste.
And why do we waste it?
Mostly because of a shared delusion, a profound collective mistake we all make.
Which is?
The false assumption that we're going to live forever, or at least for a very long time. That death is some distant, abstract thing.
Right. I'll do that when I retire, or I'll get serious about that next year.
Precisely. We live assuming we'll hit 80 or 90, so we postpone the important stuff, living meaningfully, connecting with people, pursuing virtue. We fritter away the present chasing trivialities or worrying uselessly. Seneca rips into the person who only starts really living when they're almost out of time. They realize they're dying just as they were finally getting ready to begin living. It's tragic.
You definitely see that sometimes when traveling people so caught up in future worries or past regrets, they completely miss the experience right in front of them.
That's Seneca's point exactly. Reflecting on mortality, on the shortness of life, isn't meant to make you morbid or fearful. It's meant to inject urgency into the present. It actually reduces the fear of death by making it familiar. And it creates this powerful motivation to live virtuously now, today, this moment. Because today really could be your last. Why postpone living? #tag outro.
Okay, so putting it all together, the Stoic traveler's mindset is about internalizing control over intentions and judgments, seeing external hassles, lost bags, bad food, rude people as training opportunities for virtue, and using that big cosmic picture to shrink down everyday worries.
Exactly. But there's one more crucial layer. We have to remember the ultimate Stoic goal isn't just about managing ourselves better. It's bigger than that.
Okay.
It's about living according to nature, yes, but also about serving the human community. It involves shifting focus from just the self to our role within the whole human family.
Right. Cosmopolitanism, the idea that we're citizens of the world, travel really makes that concrete, doesn't it?
It really does. The Stoics were huge advocates for cosmopolitanism. Heracles had that great image of expanding circles of concern.
Ah, yes, a circle.
Starting with the self, then family, then local community, neighbors, countrymen. And the final circle embraces all of humanity. Travel physically pushes you out of your inner circles. You encounter the universal human condition directly. And the Stoics insisted we have a duty of care and obligation to all other human beings simply because they are fellow rational beings.
Which leaves us with a really important question for you, the listener, especially as you move between different cultures and societies. If the ultimate Stoic aim is serving this global human community and living rationally within nature, how does the act of traveling, seeing all these different ways people live, struggle, find meaning, how does that change or deepen your sense of responsibility?
Yeah. When you see different values, different hardships, different virtues up close, how do you integrate that? How does it expand your circle of concern? How do you make sure you're acting justly, kindly, responsibly towards everyone you encounter, recognizing that shared humanity? Maybe the journey isn't truly over until you internalize that global sense of connection and duty. Perhaps that's the real destination for the Stoic traveler.